Well, I also want to start by saying thank you to Rosenthal, because this is the first time that the IWMF has been on the main stage at ISOJ, although we have done a lot of work in the past with you. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the workshop that we held on online violence against female journalists on Thursday. But first, I just want to give a shout, because that's not the only reason we're here. We also came here to launch our Gwen Ifill mentorship program, and we have about 20 journalists who are with us in the room as both mentors, leaders, and mentees in that program. So if y'all just want to give a quick little shout so people know who you are. Woo! So meet them if you haven't met them already. So at the IWMF, we focus on advancing women in the news media around the globe. And we believe that true press freedom can only really exist with the equal contribution of women's voices and stories. But there are a lot of forces at work that are trying to shut up journalists, and specifically there are forces at work that are also trying to shut up women journalists, both online and offline. And we know that online attacks on women and journalists of color silence their voices and silence their stories. So I just want to give a few statistics from a study that we did last year with Trollbusters, which is our partner organization. It was a US study to look at the impact that online harassment is having on female journalists and their reporting. So we surveyed 600 women, mostly based in the US, and what we found is that 2/3 of those who took the survey had experienced some kind of online harassment. I wanted to do a quick show of hands. Could those of you in the room who've been harassed online as part of your work raise your hands, please? All right, look around. There's a lot of hands in the room. I'm not sure if it's 2/3, but it's probably close. And of those who did experience online harassment, 40% avoided reporting certain stories as a result of being harassed. That means stories are getting silenced. Those attacks are often gendered, and they're designed to shame women. Comments about their appearance, about their intellectual rigor, and about their professional credentials are meant to undermine them. And there's a lot of impact. This is why we're here, to talk about the impact that has. That impact can look a lot like PTSD. It's really severe. It is a real big problem. But despite that, a lot of women aren't reporting it to their media managers or their supervisors. And in fact, only 4 in 10 of the women who took our survey did report it. So we wanted to know why that was. And they told us 1/3 of them actually cited that they were scared of being retaliated against, being taken off their beat, or losing future work because they reported it. And more than half of them said that they didn't think the management would do anything about it. That's a problem. The long-term impact is clear. It's about retention. 30% of our survey takers said that they thought about leaving journalism as a result of online attacks. We've been talking throughout this conference about the importance of newsrooms reflecting communities, about hearing from voices that reflect the diversity of our society. And when we're losing women and people of color out of the pipeline because of online harassment, that's a threat to press freedom and to our democracy. On Thursday, with the Knight Foundation and with ISOJ, we organized a day-long workshop focused on building resilience and supporting women who are facing this issue. We had 75 people there. It was really fantastic. Some of them are still here today. We heard case studies from Brazil, from Colombia, and from the United States, and we brought in more than 6 leading digital security experts to propose solutions. A few of them are here today still. I think we've still got Luisa Ortiz, Harlow Holmes, Jason Reich, and Jorge Luis Sierra in the room if you're looking for some amazing experts. One of the big takeaways that came out of Thursday's session was that newsrooms really need to adopt holistic policies that address both online and offline threats to their reporters, because the lines between those two things are blurring, and they often cross over. We know that digital attacks need to be taken seriously. Many newsrooms, however, don't have those policies or protocols in place. And my appeal to you today, if you're a media manager in this room, is to help us change that. If you work in a newsroom, if you're a media manager, can you raise your hand if you do have any policy in place that involves online harassment in your newsroom today? I see a few hands. I see very few hands. I'm not here to shame you about that. I'm here to ask you to do something about it. So we heard from Jason Reich, who's formerly at BuzzFeed, and he's now at the New York Times. He's a leading voice on building resilient media organizations that are prepared to deal with these digital threats to their reporters. And if you're in management and you're wondering how you can apply this, I hope that you will find Jason. I hope he's here somewhere today, and ask for his advice. But some of the things he told us were developing social media policies that separate the reporter's private presence from their public and professional presence, presence as a way to protect them, developing a threat assessment process inside the newsroom to be able to evaluate the severity of the threats that are being received, and also building peer support networks, because we know that this problem isn't going away anytime soon. We want to be able to help journalists, and particularly women and journalists of color, find the support so that they don't drop out of this industry. So I encourage all of the leaders in this room to create a culture where your reporters feel safe, and they feel safe to report those kinds of attacks to you. For journalists who are experiencing online harassment and attacks, we know it can feel overwhelming, and you may not know where to turn if it happens. But there are a lot of organizations working on this. It's not just the IWMF. We're working to build a global ecosystem of support to address online attacks, and we're working with organizations like CPJ. They have great resources on digital security. You should also check out PEN America's Online Harassment Field Manual, if you have not already, and the Frontline Defenders Security in a Box to start. We also provide emergency assistance to journalists who are under threat and in crisis. So if you're in crisis, we ask that you would reach out to us. And we can connect you with some of the great digital security experts that we work with to help you respond. The final thing that I'll say is that platforms aren't going to save us from this problem, but they certainly have a big role to play in helping us solve it. So please help us in holding them accountable. Thank you. Have a good day.